It is the 19th of Ramadan in the year 661. Inside the great mosque of Kufa, a man kneels in the front row among the worshippers. Tucked beneath his robe is a sword he has soaked in poison for 3 days. The woman he wants to marry has made her terms clear. She will accept his proposal only if he brings her one thing: the head of the Caliph, Ali ibn Abi Talib, the Prophet Muhammad's own cousin and son-in-law, who is standing just a few feet away, about to begin the dawn prayer. Ali would be the 4th caliph to lead the Muslim world. He would also be the 3rd to be murdered. And what makes that extraordinary is this: he and the 3 men who came before him all belonged to the same small group, 10 companions personally promised paradise by the Prophet himself. So why did so many of them die by the sword? Mecca, early 7th century. A wealthy cloth merchant named Abu Bakr trades textiles across the Arabian Peninsula, and everybody trusts him. When Muhammad first receives revelation, Abu Bakr does not wait. He becomes the first free adult male to accept Islam. But Abu Bakr does not simply believe. He starts spending his personal fortune buying and freeing enslaved people in the markets of Mecca who are being tortured for converting. He gives away nearly everything he has. After Muhammad's death, Abu Bakr is chosen as the 1st caliph, and he immediately faces a crisis. Tribes across the peninsula begin abandoning the faith. Abu Bakr wages the Ridda Wars to reunify them. It works, but the effort drains him completely. Abu Bakr dies of illness in 634, after just 2 years in power. He is 63, the same age the Prophet was when he died. Think about that for a moment. The first man on this list sacrificed his health and his wealth, and still barely held it all together. His successor would expand the empire beyond anything Abu Bakr imagined. But the way that successor found Islam is one of the strangest conversion stories in history. Umar ibn al-Khattab was tall, physically imposing, and one of Islam's fiercest early enemies. The stories say he set out one day with the intention of killing the Prophet himself. But on the way, he encountered verses of the Quran being recited inside a house. Something stopped him. Umar walked in a killer and walked out a convert. As 2nd caliph, he expanded Muslim territory from the Nile River in Egypt to the mountains of Persia. He built the foundations of Islamic law. He was known for walking the streets of Medina at night, checking on the poor in disguise. Therefore, when a Persian slave named Abu Lulu stabbed him with a poisoned dagger during morning prayers in 644, the entire empire was shaken. Umar bled on the prayer mat and reportedly told the worshippers to finish the prayer before helping him. He died 3 days later. But here is the detail about Umar's final hours that most people never hear. As he lay dying, he sent a messenger to Aisha asking permission to be buried beside the Prophet and Abu Bakr. She had been saving the last space for herself. She gave it to Umar. Then he sent the messenger back a 2nd time with a correction. "Tell her it is Umar ibn al-Khattab asking," he said. "Not the commander of the faithful, just Umar." Uthman ibn Affan, the 3rd caliph, was nothing like either of them. Quiet, gentle, enormously wealthy. He had personally funded the Muslim migration to Abyssinia, married 2 of the Prophet's daughters, and later ordered the standardized compilation of the Quran into a single written text. But Uthman's caliphate attracted growing resentment from those who accused him of favoring his Umayyad relatives. By the year 656, armed rebels surrounded his house in Medina. They cut off his water supply. Uthman refused to call in soldiers, insisting he would not be the first caliph to shed Muslim blood in defense of his own life. The rebels climbed the walls and killed him while he sat reading the Quran. His blood stained the open page. That image, the blood on the Quran, became one of the most politically explosive symbols in Islamic history, because the question of who was responsible for Uthman's murder tore the community apart, and the civil wars it ignited would kill 2 more of the 10 promised paradise on the same day, on opposite sides of the same battlefield. Talha ibn Ubaydullah had shielded the Prophet with his own body at the Battle of Uhud, taking dozens of arrow wounds. Zubayr ibn al-Awwam was called the disciple of the Prophet and had first drawn his sword for Islam at the age of 16. Both were promised paradise. But after Uthman's assassination, both broke with Ali over the question of justice for the killers. They raised an army and marched toward Basra. The result was the Battle of the Camel in 656, the first armed conflict between Muslim armies. Talha was struck by an arrow mid-battle and bled to death in the dirt. Zubayr had actually withdrawn before the fighting began, reportedly after Ali reminded him of a warning the Prophet once gave him. It did not matter. A man followed Zubayr into a valley and stabbed him. When the killer brought Zubayr's head to Ali, Ali wept and condemned the murder. 2 men promised paradise, both dead within hours of each other. By the year 639, the ancient town of Amwas, near Jerusalem, was being consumed by plague. Abu Ubayda ibn al-Jarrah was there. The Prophet had called him the trustee of the nation. He had led the Muslim armies that conquered Damascus and accepted the surrender of Jerusalem. He was arguably the most important military leader alive. Umar, the caliph back in Medina, sent word begging him to evacuate. Abu Ubayda refused. The Prophet had taught that no one should flee a land struck by plague. So, Abu Ubayda stayed. He buried soldier after soldier in the Syrian dust. And then the plague took him too. He was 58 years old. He could have left. He chose not to. Now, compare that to the man who came next on the list. Abdurrahman ibn Auf did not die on a battlefield or in a plague zone. He was spectacularly wealthy, one of the richest men in the entire early Muslim community. He once donated an entire trade caravan loaded with goods from 700 camels. But despite the fortune he gave away, those who knew him said you could not tell him apart from the servants walking beside him. He died in Medina in 652. Natural causes. Quiet end. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas was different from all of them. He was the first person in Islamic history to fire an arrow in battle, and he commanded the army that crushed the Persian Empire at the Battle of Qadisiyah. That single victory reshaped the map of the known world. But after the civil wars began, Sa'd stepped back. He refused to fight on either side. He outlived every single one of the other 9. The first archer of Islam died peacefully around 674, the last of the 10 in a country estate outside Medina. An old soldier who had watched all of his companions rise, fight, and fall. And Sa'id ibn Zayd, the 10th name, Umar's own cousin, one of the very first people in Mecca to accept Islam. He fought in nearly every major battle alongside the Prophet. He died near Medina around 671, with no assassination, no battlefield wound, no plague. Just an old man who survived the century. Now, back in the great mosque of Kufa. Ali ibn Abi Talib falls. The poisoned blade has struck the crown of his head, cutting through the scar of an old battle wound. His sons Hassan and Hussein carry him from the mosque. He dies 2 days later. He is the third straight caliph to be assassinated. And with his death, the era of the Rashidun, the rightly guided caliphs, ends. The Umayyad dynasty takes power. The divisions forged in these decades still shape the Muslim world today. 10 men, same prophet, same promise, 4 assassinated, 2 killed fighting each other, 1 buried by a plague he refused to run from, and 3 who lived long enough to watch everything they helped build split into factions that have never fully reunited. One of the most extraordinary claims the Prophet ever made was not about these 10 men. It was about a single night when he says he was carried from Mecca to Jerusalem and then upward through 7 heavens, meeting these companions' ancestors along the way. That journey, the Isra and Miraj, is the video on screen right now.